Tonight on Global National, Hezbollah hits back. The Lebanese militant group launches a barrage of rockets deep inside Israel, declaring an open-ended battle of reckoning.
We need to end this somehow.
The frantic efforts to prevent the region from spiraling into another all-out war. Provincial politics.
Harm reduction, the mental health issues, and homelessness.
Election campaigns kicking off from coast to coast. How the provincial elections could be a litmus test for the federal Conservatives. Water woes. After a summer of restrictions, residents in Calgary receive refreshing news. Plus, protecting from pollution.
The lake was my big sister. It was alive and well.
The legal fight to give Lake Winnipeg the same rights as a person.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The United Nations warns the Middle East is on the brink of imminent catastrophe. The UN chief says Lebanon is now at risk of transforming into another Gaza after Israel launched another series of strikes targeting Hezbollah. The Lebanese militant group said the conflict with Israel is entering a new stage and declared an open-ended battle of reckoning. A dashcam video captured the moment a Hezbollah rocket slammed into a northern Israeli town, injuring at least 3 people. It was one of around 150 rockets, missiles, and other projectiles fired by Hezbollah overnight and this morning, striking deeper into Israeli territory than it has in 2 decades. Israel also had to defend against a separate barrage of missiles and drones fired from Iraq. A militia group backed by Iran claimed responsibility for that. Bianca Facchinei reports on the rapidly escalating conflict and civilians caught in the crossfire.
An airstrike that Israel says was targeting Hamas killed 7 people in a Gaza school sheltering families Sunday.
We're displaced and we don't know where to go. This school is destroyed. Where are the displaced people supposed to go?
The strike, the second to hit a school in the past 2 days, comes as Israel approaches a growing conflict on multiple fronts. Earlier Sunday, Israel's military forced the closure of an Al Jazeera news bureau in the West Bank.
They destroyed the main entrance and surrounded the area completely and stormed into the office, and then handed us an order that the office will be closed for 45 days.
Further north, Lebanese authorities confirmed the number of people killed from the Israeli airstrike targeting Hezbollah Friday has climbed to 45. That followed attacks on the group earlier in the week, with pagers and walkie-talkies remotely detonating, killing and injuring people across the country, though Israel has not claimed responsibility.
In the subsequent months, they haven't stopped for a single day attacking us. No country can accept the wanton rocketing of its cities. We can't accept it either. We will take whatever action is necessary to restore security and to bring our people safe back to their homes.
Those comments coming after Hezbollah launched over 100 rockets into Israel. The group's deputy leader saying the conflict has entered a new phase.
Threats won't stop us, and we don't fear the most dangerous possibilities, and we are ready to face all military scenarios.
The escalation has the rest of the world on edge. The White House officials say they're committed to reaching a diplomatic solution.
Nobody's Pollyannish about how hard that's going to be, certainly in light of the events over the last week or so, but that doesn't mean we're going to give up on it.
And the UK's top diplomat is calling for an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. Foreign Secretary David Lammy said Sunday that the fighting is in nobody's interest. Political pressure for a peaceful resolution is building as the anniversary of the October 7th terror attacks approaches, with fighting now on multiple fronts. Bianca Facchinei, Global News, Washington.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard says it has arrested 12 people accused of collaborating with Israel and planning attacks against Iran's security. The suspects were arrested across 6 Iranian provinces. It's not clear exactly when those arrests were made. Turning to the war in Ukraine now, and for the second straight night, Russia launched attacks on the city of Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine. A series of bombs hit high-rise apartment buildings, injuring at least 21 people, including a child. Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, is located just 30 kilometers from the Russian border and has been hit hard and often since Russia launched its full-scale invasion. On Friday night, 15 people were hurt when Russian airstrikes hit 3 Kharkiv neighborhoods. Ukraine is expected to top the agenda in New York City, where Canada's Prime Minister is meeting with other world leaders for the United Nations Summit of the Future. They'll discuss conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East, among other international issues. The summit could also provide a welcome reprieve for Justin Trudeau from his political troubles here at home. Mackenzie Gray joins us now from New York. So, Mackenzie, what should we expect from the summit?
Well, Jeff, it's the Super Bowl of international diplomacy, Leaders Week here at the United Nations, and it could be Justin Trudeau's last time here in New York as Prime Minister. Trudeau's first event of the day, this Summit of the Future, a special meeting to discuss what the institution will look like going forward, where he says the UN has a choice.
We can bury our heads in the sand, eschewing multilateralism in favor of short-sighted self-interest, or we can recognize that collectively we have a responsibility to set our differences aside, to confront the serious global challenges.
And there are a litany of challenges. Conflicts in Gaza, Ukraine, Sudan, and Haiti have all dragged on, and the UN has essentially been powerless to stop them. Potential solutions will dominate the conversation here in New York. Gaza, the most pressing, with the potential for that conflict to expand into Lebanon. But look for Justin Trudeau to focus more on Ukraine, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky coming to New York City, and Trudeau's expected to meet with him. Pull-aside one-on-one meetings are a staple of any trip to the UN, with Trudeau meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister as well as the Governor of New York and the UN Secretary General today, and expect Trudeau not just to focus on international issues in those meetings, but also on domestic policy achievements.
We know that confident, successful countries invest in their citizens, in their workers, in their middle class, in national $10 a day childcare that saves families money, while ensuring women can choose the best path for themselves.
And meanwhile, Mackenzie, the Prime Minister's political struggles continue here at home. He's facing a non-confidence motion this week. What are you hearing on that front?
Well, Jeff, normally prime ministers who are around as long as Justin Trudeau like being on the global stage. They want to have people know that they're elder statesmen. But considering the parliamentary situation that Justin Trudeau is now in, he always has to have one eye back on Ottawa. And parliamentary procedure is not Justin Trudeau's favorite topic, although he will be back on Wednesday in the House of Commons to vote on that non-confident Conservative motion that they have brought forward. The Liberals likely to survive that with the support of the Bloc and the NDP. But if you put aside the diplomacy and you put aside the politics, Justin Trudeau is also focusing on one other interesting thing while he's here in New York, Jeff. He'll be on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, practicing a little bit of his karma.
No laughing matter. Mackenzie Gray in New York. Thanks, Mackenzie. And some voters won't have to wait for a federal election to cast their ballots. Party leaders in 2 provinces, British Columbia and New Brunswick, have now kicked off their fall election campaigns, and Saskatchewan is set to follow. The provinces are physically far apart, of course, but share common issues, including the cost of living and health care. Heidi Petracek reports on the provincial politics and potential lessons for federal leaders.
We're building, there's going to be 700 plus homes.
NDP leader David Eby's Sunday campaign schedule included a tour of future housing in North Vancouver.
Want a race?
The political race against the BC Conservatives focused on courting the province's centrist voters.
We need to put common sense first.
With the implosion of BC United, previously the BC Liberals, the party that wins the centre will win this election.
All hinging on issues that matter most to people right across the country. The cost of living crisis, affordable housing and health care top of mind in British Columbia and in New Brunswick too, where voters are also deciding which way to cast their ballots.
I'd like to see things get better for the poorer people making lower income wages.
The 3 major parties, the PCs, Liberals and the Greens, pitching their plans to make life more affordable.
Pressure on social programs like healthcare, especially healthcare, education, those things will factor into whether people feel that they need to give Blaine Higgs another try. or whether they need to pivot to somebody else.
And another province will likely soon be joining BC and New Brunswick on the fall campaign trail. A provincial election in Saskatchewan hasn't officially been called yet, but voting is scheduled to happen on or before October 28th. Over the past year, divisive issues such as drug decriminalization in BC and gender pronoun policies in schools in New Brunswick and Saskatchewan have made headlines. How they play out on campaign trails, sure to be closely watched by federal party leaders.
If the BC NDP prevails and Blaine Higgs does not, I think the Conservatives should, be careful about the messaging around some of these more contentious issues.
The campaigns are just getting started. One poll indicates 18% of people asked in both provinces don't know yet how they will vote. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
Calgarians are breathing and drinking a little easier after months of water restrictions were finally lifted. The city's mayor announced the feeder main is back in service and reservoirs are refilled, meaning residents can return to normal water use. The major water main burst back in June, jeopardizing the city's water supply. Further inspection found more than 20 spots in need of repair. The overall cost is around $40 million. Officials say tap water may appear cloudy, but is safe to drink. Turning south of the border, where at least 4 people were killed and 18 injured in a mass shooting in Birmingham, Alabama last night. It happened just after 11 p.m. in a popular entertainment district. Police say multiple shooters pulled up in a vehicle, got out and opened fire, then fled. Authorities believe it was targeted.
We believe the individual that was targeted is among the deceased. We believe that there was a hit, if you will, on that particular person, as far as, someone was willing to pay money to have that person killed.
Police believe the other victims were caught in the crossfire. The FBI is now involved in the investigation as the suspects remain at large. Refugee resettlement coming up. Canada's housing crisis exacerbates efforts to find homes for newcomers. Plus, far-right rising. A state election in Germany marks a key test for its ruling party. Sri Lanka is ushering in a new political era tonight. Anora Disan Iika, a Marxist lawyer, has been declared the winner of Saturday's presidential election. The result represents a rejection of the old guard, which is accused of pushing Sri Lanka into economic disaster. The new president is vowing to prioritize the economy and to make life more affordable for ordinary Sri Lankans. And in Germany, the center-left Social Democratic Party prevailed over the far right in regional elections held in the state of Brandenburg, just outside Berlin. The far-right Alternative for Germany party had already made gains in 2 other regional elections in eastern Germany earlier this month. The Social Democratic Party has ruled in the state since German reunification more than 30 years ago. Canada has welcomed more than 40,000 Syrian refugees over the past decade after their lives were upended by civil war. But for many, starting over hasn't been easy, and the housing crisis is compounding those challenges. Neethu Garcha reports.
This Kurdish family came to Metro Vancouver seeking a new beginning, but instead have found themselves entangled in a web of hardship. Yasser Hamdo says with the help of friends, they found a suitable home to rent for their family of 8 in January. Now they're facing eviction because the owner is moving back in.
He said to get this house, he waited 2 years. And now he's forced to leave. They want to sell the house. And when people know he has 6 children, nobody give him anything to rent.
Since their arrival in 2018 as government-sponsored refugees from Syria, this family has been repeatedly displaced, receiving eviction notices from 3 homes. 2 previous evictions were for demolition and building permits.
This is a hazard.
In 2023, Global News reported on their dire living conditions.
The kid's injured his feet on the broken tile.
Hamdo says the family is on income assistance. His older children have been unable to find jobs, and neither he or his wife, who is on disability, are able to work.
We have severe anxiety. We don't feel the day, we don't feel the night.
Hamdo questions why the government resettled them in Metro Vancouver, one of the most expensive regions in the country.
He said, we were living in the streets. I brought my kids here to live in the streets again.
The family's plight underscores a larger and widespread issue: scarce affordable housing and the high cost of living. Some experts say recent conversations around limiting immigration fail to accurately diagnose the drivers of the housing crisis, which include financialization of the housing market and low supply.
If you come as a government-sponsored refugee, the government tells you where to live.
Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada says it plans to invest $1.2 billion this year to support the settlement needs of newcomers outside of Quebec.
We need to take a more holistic approach that looks at the right to housing for people. And we're going to keep blaming immigrants for a housing crisis that they had no hand in creating.
IRCC says resettled refugees also have the fundamental right to relocate to any province of their choice. Hamdo's family says they'd be willing to make the shift to a part of the country with more housing supply and lower rents if they could afford the cost of moving. Neetu Garcha, Global News, Langley, BC.
Still ahead, protecting children from RSV, a new shot in the arm this respiratory virus season. Welcome back. Today is the official start of fall, and that also means we're headed into respiratory virus season. RSV is one of the most common viruses and can also be one of the most concerning. It causes respiratory tract infections such as pneumonia and often hits infants and children under 2. The good news, there is now a protective shot for RSV. But as Catherine Ward explains, access depends on where you live.
Respiratory syncytial virus is a serious matter.
RSV is the leading cause of hospitalization in children under 1 year of age in Canada, year in and year out.
This will be the first full season healthcare providers will be able to offer infants a protective shot called nirsevimab. The monoclonal antibody was approved by Health Canada in 2023, but global supply issues held up widespread use in Canada. Dr. Jesse Papenburg says he's keen to see these shots rolled out.
It's been shown in the field to be just as effective as it was in the initial clinical studies, reducing hospitalizations by about 80%. And it's been shown to be very safe.
But access to this latest therapy is unequal, with provinces and territories in charge. Ontario and Nunavut will offer nirsevimab to all infants. Newfoundland and Labrador anticipates it will only be able to offer nirsevimab to high-risk infants. Nova Scotia says it's still reviewing recommendations and availability. Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and BC will also prioritize high-risk infants, offering an older monoclonal antibody called palivizumab. Other provinces and territories did not provide details by deadline.
One of the problems with this older monoclonal antibody is that it must be given by monthly injections. So a baby might need up to 5 injections over the course of a winter season to offer them protection. And it's actually even more expensive than nirsevimab.
Dr. Kevin Chen says he highly recommends getting the most recent vaccines for COVID, flu, and RSV ahead of this year's respiratory virus season.
It really helps prevent disease, prevents crowding inside our hospital emergency departments and onto our inpatient floors.
Doctors say if provinces and territories have not yet acquired doses, it might be too late to roll out nirsevimab in time for this season. Dr. Papenburg says the next goal is protection for all infants for 2025-2026. Jeff?
Catherine Ward in Toronto. Thanks, Catherine. Protecting a lake like a person. Up next, why an Indigenous group says Lake Winnipeg deserves the same rights as you. Well, the competitions in Paris may have ended, but the celebrations continue. 6 hometown Olympians and Paralympians were honored at a parade in Markham, Ontario today. Among them, 7-time Olympic medalist Andre DeGrasse and Blade Runner Marissa Papaconstantino. She was born without a right foot and finished 4th in the 200-meter race. Well, talk about a domino effect in downtown Toronto. 8,000 giant dominoes were set up and knocked down this afternoon. The chain reaction stretching for 2.5 kilometers through the city. Created by world-renowned artists, Station House Opera, 250 volunteers spent 3 hours setting it all up, and it took nearly 30 minutes for all of them to fall down. Should nature have the same rights as a person? There's a growing movement and even a legal challenge making that claim that the natural world deserves the same rights that people do. Melissa Ridgen explains.
Lake Winnipeg is the world's 10th largest freshwater lake by surface area, more than 400 kilometers from north to south. First Nations believe it has a living spirit and deserves the same rights and protections as a person.
When I grew up there, the lake was my big sister. It was alive and well, and it flourished.
But municipal and industrial wastewaters, agricultural runoff, and hydroelectric development have taken a toll. The Global Nature Fund named Lake Winnipeg the most threatened lake in the world in 2013.
I can't drink the water. I can't swim in the water. I can't eat the fish from there.
Many still do eat the fish, but a group of elders backed by Southern Manitoba chiefs want the lake to have the legal right to live and flow and be defended in court if threatened. The court filing comes ahead of Manitoba Hydro looking to extend its license to regulate the lake for another 50 years.
Lake Winnipeg has the right to life, liberty, and security of the person. Lake Winnipeg must have its own voice in that public hearing.
The Magpie River in northern Quebec was granted personhood in 2021, following a river in New Zealand, Brazil, and the United States.
We've seen international precedents set in different countries around the world, and we think we can do a Canadian or Manitoba solution to how we work with our environment, and in this case, Lake Winnipeg.
Neither the Manitoba government nor its hydro corporation would comment, saying it's now up to the courts to decide if Lake Winnipeg has rights. Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's Your Canada is a grizzly bear and its cubs near Kananaskis, Alberta. Great pick.